Sincerely to
That's all I know how to do. And you gotta cut me some slack. I have no other skills. She's here? She's behind. No, she's third row, fourth row in the back on the far. It's here from your ankle. Anyway, she's here.
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 Here. Here. Here.
Here.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Ferndale Public Schools Board of Education held on November 17th, 2014. Our meeting is being video recorded for broadcast on cable throughout the next month on a rotating schedule. All meetings in the Ferndale schools are held in public in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. Printed documents discussed in tonight's meeting are available to the public on request, with the exception of any information protected by student or employee privacy rights. Board meeting information is posted on our website at ferndaleschools.org. If you do not have internet access and need information, please contact the board offices at 248-586-8652 by Thursday of the week prior to the meeting, and district staff will do their best to work with you. So at this point, I would like to ask that we all stand and for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up is approval of the agenda, and I do have one request to add a brief legislative update, which we will put after item number 8. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, without objection, the agenda is approved. Next, we'll move to our student representatives from our two Ferndale high schools. First up is Faith Huddleston from Ferndale High School.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
A few things that happened in Ferndale. The theater department just completed a successful run of Alice in Wonderland. The entire cast, crew, and production were wonderful. We are all looking forward to The Wizard of Oz, which is this year's spring musical. Please plan to join us for another fantastic FHS theater production. As a part of the district-wide initiative, students in 9th and 10th grade recently completed the NWEA tests in math, reading, and English language arts. Mr. Pruitt recently started a student advisory group at FHS. Several students were selected by administration to meet with Mr. Pruitt on a monthly basis to discuss ideas about improving our schools. We are looking forward to hearing great things from this group. 55 students and 16 staff members recently returned from Camp Skyline, a communications retreat where students listen to learn and learn to listen. Students returned and had many positive comments about their experience. Congratulations to the IMPI Warriors Robotics team, who was selected by the D Systems and the Coca-Cola Company to receive a free 3D printer. Ferndale High School will host Financial Aid Night on December 9th from 6:30 p.m. through 8:30 p.m. The Thespian Showcase will be held on Friday, November 21st at 7 p.m. in the Ferndale High School Auditorium. Ferndale High School is sponsoring a blood drive on Tuesday, November 18th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. As far as sports, the Lady Eagles took home the district championship title in volleyball by defeating Warren Fitzgerald, but they later took a loss to Livonia Ladywood in next round. At the OAA swim meet last week, Ferndale senior Ty Fenari was named senior of the meet as she won the 200 IM and 100 butterfly with personal best in each event. Ty has also qualified for the state championship meet November 21st and 22nd. Winter sports are underway and there are tryouts for various teams that begin this week.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Thank you very much for that update. Next up, I would like to call Damiana Thomas from University High School.
I don't think this is low enough. Okay.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, and good evening. First, I would like to start with the juniors. They just recently took a mock ACT, and after they took their mock ACT, what they did in their CPC classes, which are college preparatory classes, they looked at their individual scores for math, English, reading, science, and writing, and they set new goals from their previous goals to make sure that they get the scores that they really want when they take the test in March. And that's going to really help them prepare for college and greater their chances of getting into the college that they want to get into. And our College Resource Center, they're really stepping their game up this year. We have a new advisor, Mr. Gleason. I think he just recently came from Ferndale High School, but everybody really likes him. He has set up an on-site for Michigan State that took place earlier today at school. There was an on-site for Bowling Green State University last Friday. University of Michigan Flint will visit tomorrow. Western Michigan University will visit this coming up Thursday, and the seniors will take a class visit to Oakland University. So I think the College Resource Center is really like getting their job done and helping us as students prepare for college. Certain activities that we have at UHS. Homecoming, that was a really successful activity. Student Council really did a great job with setting up Spirit Week and having different activities from last year. I think all of my peers really enjoyed that. The Science Department has a new program called Got Science, and it's basically introducing students to applying chemistry to real life. So their first project would be candle making, which I think is pretty cool because who doesn't like candles? The seniors, I know that you guys know that UHS is partnered with Wayne State, and recently at Wayne State we've had a couple immersion events, and those were really events that Wayne State's held and hosted for the seniors so they can get acquitted to a college campus, using a college library and seeing what actual college classrooms look like and dealing with college professors. As far as athletics, the volleyball team ended their season with a 2-3 record, and they did win their senior night game against Hazel Park, which was really great because we really needed that win. And the basketball team, they have started their tryouts, and the girls basketball team has even started practicing, and their first games are in December, I believe. And this year we have a new addition to UHS, is University Middle School. It's one class that's split 7th and 8th grade. There are 7th, 8th graders and 27th graders, and Miss Ward is their teacher. She teaches all 4 academic subjects, English, math, science, and social studies, and a computer science class. And when I was talking to her, she really said that she enjoyed the atmosphere at University High School, and she enjoyed seeing the middle schoolers look up to this is how high school students act in high school, so they get to see the do's and don'ts, basically. And our DECA chapter, we are preparing for districts. That's December 16th, I believe. And our NHS chapter has recently completed a community service project at Gleaner's Food Bank. And really, we just created over 500 snacks and dinners for hungry children within the city, and that really helped out because Gleaners was able to get more work done that day because we came in and did their work for them. And that's it.
All right, thank you for those updates. Very informative, and we look forward to seeing you both at our upcoming meetings. Any questions from the board about what's happening in UHS?
We had an opportunity to hear from Faith last month, but you weren't here, so can you tell us a little bit about what year are you and what kinds of things do you do in high school, and where are you looking for your college career?
Okay, I am a senior in high school. I love to play volleyball. I played basketball last year. Last year was actually my first year at University High School, and I really liked it because before I went to big high schools that were not really interpersonal, and I like the relationships that I have with my teachers. And I am in DECA. This is my first year. I am in National Honor Society. This is my first year. And really, I'm just trying to get used to doing things outside of the box because I've been so used to doing what I want to do. My parents and UHS they have been teaching me that sometimes you have to do the things that you don't want to do in order to get the goals that you want to achieve. And I want to go to Western Michigan University.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you.
Great.
Good. This week.
Okay.
All right. I also, after those presentations, want to take a moment to recognize and honor a former longtime principal at Ferndale High School, Stuart Dilley, who was principal at Taft School for many years, and he passed away this week, so I just wanted to ask for a moment of silence in his memory. Thank you. Next up, we move to public comment. This is the time for public participation in the meeting. The Board of Education intends for the public to have many opportunities to address the board and administration of their school district. These include email, phone calls, face-to-face meetings, community gatherings, public hearings, and other public meetings. We welcome individual and group input into the important issues that confront our schools. As noted at the top of the agenda, this is a meeting of the school board open to the public. We want to provide fair and impartial guidelines for participation as required by the Open Meetings Act and to encourage transparency and equal treatment for everyone in attendance. We also recognize that an effective meeting facilitates better decisions and promotes openness by allowing more people to stay for the full length of the meeting. To meet these goals, please note the following items. We ask that you identify yourself and list contact information on a comment sheet to help administrators follow up with you on your comment. If you don't wish to do so in writing, please identify yourself at the podium, and if you need a response, please provide contact information with an administrator after the meeting. I will call on the people who have completed comment sheets first. Also, each person will have one opportunity to address the board for up to 3 minutes. Comments or questions should be directed to the board president. The secretary will raise her hand when your time is within a few seconds of expiring. This period, just for identification purposes, that's Karen Toomey. This period of public comments is for both non-agenda items and issues that are on the agenda. In the event that the number of people wishing to comment requires longer than 30 minutes, public comment will be temporarily postponed after 30 minutes, and time will be added to the end of the meeting for those who did not get a chance to speak. Complaints about staff should be made outside of board meetings and should follow the applicable board policy. Please contact the superintendent's office if you have any questions regarding this item. The board cannot respond to complaints about employees in public, and this is meant to promote fairness both to the staff person and the complainant. The Ferndale Public Schools community acts with great civility toward one another, and we ask that you please help us to maintain that tradition during public comment. So just to reinforce that, we can't really hear public comments on any individual employment situation, especially for represented employees, because we have unionized employees, and that particularly, those particular circumstances have to go through a formal process rather than occur at a board meeting. So I have 2 comment cards here. Anybody else who wishes to address the board could just prepare to approach the podium, but I want to call on Maurice Tellisford first, who is president of the Ferndale Education Association.
He's got cool socks on today.
Good evening. As President O'Donnell mentioned, I'm Maurice Tellisford, the president of the Ferndale Education Association, and I have 2, I guess, things that I want to discuss tonight briefly. One is with regards to the DLC and the restructuring of the program. Many of our members in that building are concerned that the new structure is going to be detrimental to many of the 350 students that we've committed to providing a sound virtual education to. They worked really hard to make sure those students could be counted for our district and we could receive some funds for them. And they want to make sure that we are mindful of how all the changes to the program might affect them, because we do feel we've made a commitment to them. So they wanted me to articulate that they feel there's a perception that most students in the building aren't working hard and don't want to learn, but in fact, many come every day or have come every day when they had that option, sat in the teachers' classrooms and really were working to make progress towards a high school degree. They also wanted me to applaud the current administration because many of the behavior policies and being a little more rigorous in terms of not allowing fights or not allowing certain behavior, they were working. They felt the behavior was getting better in the building, the graduation rates were up, so the overall climate was moving in a positive direction. So we hope that in the new structure, we can assess how well it's working and maybe revisit some of the decisions that were made to restructure it. The other one is an interesting parallel that I find our union to be in compared to the district. With the right to work legislation, we're seeing a decline in membership. We can't mandate that members join our union. We can't collect their dues through payroll. And we find ourselves in a position of seeing declining money coming in the door and having to be creative about how we can use the resources we have and also how we can bring back members. And as president, what I've asked our board to approve is to allow me to spend more money to go out and do programming and to reach out to our members, which you might think is strange when you have declining revenue. Why are you spending more money? But we're taking the stance that if we invest in our members and if we provide programming that's of high quality, members will eventually come back and they'll stay with our union. So as I was at the superintendent's open meeting or the town hall a few days ago, I was excited to hear about some of the plans that are coming for our district, where it seems like the board is going to invest resources to create new programming to try and attract new families to the district. So I think many teachers would agree that we are excited to have some new pizzazz or new ideas bouncing around that will hopefully recruit more families to the district, and we look forward to working together to bring those to reality. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Kiata Watts.
Good evening. I don't know if it's on either, but good evening, everyone. My name is Kiata Watts, and I am the former Grant Early Childhood Program Supervisor. November 7th was my last day with Ferndale Public Schools. And a couple of things that are resonating on my heart that I think it's important for those of you who are here to understand is, one, I have been with Ferndale Public Schools for 7 years. I have had 4 different supervisors, and I have maintained a wonderful work record. It has been said that I resigned from the district, and I believe that that was a forced resignation. It is called a constructive work environment, a constructive discharge, and
You can't talk about those individual circumstances?
I didn't use any names.
Well, it affects your specific case.
Including your own
Thank you.
case,
The fact of the matter is that along with other people who are giving their concerns regarding programming in the school district, when I tried to give my suggestions as an employee of Ferndale Public Schools, unfortunately, those things were looked at as negative. And so I really urge the board to dig a little deeper, find out why work environments are not conducive for everyone, and even as to why someone who has maintained relationships and built relationships across the district, why something like that would occur. It's not because it's something that I wanted. And I just want to say that since I'm not able to go any further. But leadership is not about having a position over people. It's about a disposition toward people. And I just think that that's very important moving forward. And I wish that as much attention is being brought to Ferndale High School, UHS, and maybe some of the other schools, that Grant Early Childhood Center will continue to get more support, the support that's needed so that they're a thriving school as well as the others. Thank you.
Great comments. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board this evening?
Hi, my name is Penny Carrier, and I work over at Grant School. I've been with the district now 17 years, and I've been through a lot of things. I do want to make you aware of how our year began at Grant. Our secretary resigned, or left, or whatever she did, but she's not there anymore, okay? And so we did not have a secretary. We got substitute secretaries, a different person each day, but those secretaries did not have the tools that were needed to run our school. As you know, the office is the heartbeat of a school. So when half of your heartbeat is missing, the other half has to work very hard to maintain things and to keep things going. The secretaries we had could not get into the computer. We were not put into MyStar. Amy Rooney, who is a parapro for the Head Start program, ended up putting them in because of that. There were a lot of things that were happening at Grant, and the more we reached out, the more I felt we were pushed back. And I feel that our supervisor spoke out in our defense in doing what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to promote parents, promote families, advocate for her staff, and that is what she did. I wish that people would take the time and listen to both sides of the story. Don't cut people off. Don't end things. Hear the whole story. And I'm asking you not to accept Kiata Watts' resignation. Please do not approve that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board?
Good evening. My name is Jamila Bowden. I'm also I'm a former employee of Ferndale Public Schools. I had to write down my comments. I just want to. I'm addressing the board before I get cut off. I am making a plea to you, not bringing up an individual employee case. But I want to ensure that you're fully aware of the caliber employee whose resignation you are preparing to accept. Before simply moving on to the next line item on the agenda, perhaps we should start with other issues that have been passed over all too often, which have allowed systems to continue that are robbing the district of their best and brightest at the expense of our children and community. When you've seen the continual stream of resignation letters cross your desks of discontented employees for a variety of reasons, with some overarching problematic similarities for over a year, at some point, it should cause you to pause. The sheer numbers in this brief time should bring you pause. When you see the resignation letter of an employee of the caliber of Mrs. Watts, who has been recognized by her schools, her students' parents, the community, her administrators, the district, the county, and even across the nation, as one who is a veritable leader among leaders, an expert in her field in any capacity, with a stellar record for the expanse of her career, it should give you pause. When you see the resignation letter in the middle of a school year from any person who is known to complete every professional endeavor that she begins, and at any cost, it should bring you pause. When you see the resignation letter of employees of the utmost quality who increase test scores of the students in the classroom, who improve relationships among families in the district and in the communities, who've attracted new families to the district, who've helped to improve relationships within the district and the community, it should bring you pause. Unable to speak about the stellar individual you just heard from, I simply desire to encourage you to look deeper, to assure that the fair and impartial, equal treatment words that are a goal of the board are also recognized within the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Donna Squalls, and I am the supervisor of Royal Oak Township. I did not come prepared to speak tonight, but I will speak on behalf of not only the Board of Trustees, but the citizens of Royal Oak Township, who myself is a lifelong citizen of Royal Oak Township. I do believe I have a very good communication with the residents there in the township. And hearing, can I say this about myself? I only attended Ferndale schools from Ferndale High School. Prior to that, I did not attend the Ferndale schools because my parents had heard so much negativity about the Ferndale schools. And as an adult, I did too. Now, Ferndale schools have improved tremendously. You guys, this is a very good school district. But I do want to say that I have heard negative things in the past about the principals at Grant. Since Ms. Watts has been there, not one negative thing I've heard from the residents. She has brought in students, she has brought in families. It is a great working relationship with Ms. Watts and the parents of Royal Oak Township. Please, on behalf of Royal Oak Township, consider not accepting Ms. Watts' resignation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. Does anyone else wish to address the board? All right. Seeing no one else, we will close public comment. Next up on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is just merely groups together several action items. Any board member can pull something out of the consent agenda for further question or discussion for any reason. And then that item or items will just be moved to the end of the agenda. There's an item number 8 that's reserved for any pulled consent agenda items. We will discuss them at that time. The items on the consent agenda this evening are request to approve minutes of the special meeting on October 20th, 2014. 4.2, request to approve minutes of the regular meeting on October 20th, 2014. 4.3 is a request to approve the second reading of policies and adopt those policies. Item 4.4 is a request to approve the bills and accounts for October. Item 4.5 is a request to approve resignations received by the Human Resources Department. And item 4.6 is a request to approve new hires submitted by the Human Resources Department. So is there anyone that wishes to pull any item from the consent agenda?
I do have a comment.
Yes.
If that's okay. For any of the items pulled, would we, considering with those items, if those items are discussed in public, it's a public forum as we have here, will names have to be mentioned in that? I mean, is it a privacy issue as far as names, or can it be discussed? Any of the items, particularly 4.5.
Sure. The items that are in the board packet have
Okay.
names.
Okay.
And I also need to request that we pull item 4.2 just for an update from the board packet. There was one amendment to the minutes which we'll talk about when we get to item 8. So we'll pull item 4.2 and move that to item 8. So, Raylan, did you want?
I would like to pull 4.5 for further discussion.
Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 4.1, the special meeting minutes, 4.3, the adoption of, approval and adoption of the second reading of policies that are in the packet. Item 4.4, approving the bills and accounts, and item 4.6, approving new hires. So I'll entertain that motion. Moved by Nan, and seconded by Raylon. May we have a roll call on the motion, please?
Butters?
Yes.
Deaconcroft?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Yes. Leaks-May?
Yes.
Toomey?
Yes.
Yes. With 7 yes and 0 no, that motion carries, and those consent agenda items, with the exception of 4.2 and 4.5, which were pulled, are approved. Next up is our action agenda. The first item is consideration of the peer-to-peer curriculum. I assume Ms. Rochelle will introduce that item.
Good evening. The peer-to-peer curriculum, the peer-to-peer program is already at our high school 9th through 12th grade. This is for our 7th and 8th grade program. A peer-to-peer program is definitely just to increase opportunities for students who are on the autism spectrum disorder or students with other special needs so that they can access general ed settings. The peers model typical academic and social behavior in educational environments throughout the school day while promoting independence and socialization. And the curriculum is actually for students who are in general ed so that they learn all of the key components of how to support other students. So we're just asking for approval for the peer-to-peer curriculum in our Ferndale Middle School.
All right, so I'm just trying to pull that. Just turn my computer back on. So I'll entertain a motion to approve that peer-to-peer curriculum from anyone. Moved by Nan, seconded by Kevin. I only picked Nan first because she was more vociferous.
Well, she was in front.
I do really love this program.
All right, any discussion or questions on the motion?
Just to note that we talked about this quite extensively in the Achievement Committee, and it's very impressive.
All right. Seeing no other discussion or questions, we'll move to a roll call, please.
Deaconcroft?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Yes. Leaks-May?
Peer-to-peer, yes.
Toomey?
Yes.
Butters?
Yes.
President O'Donnell?
Yes. And with 7 yes and 0 no, that motion carries, and the peer-to-peer curriculum is approved.
All right, the next curriculum is our MESA units. These are units that have been approved from Oakland schools. Currently in Ferndale, we have kindergarten through 6th grade and 9th through 12th grade approved for our English language arts curriculum that are through MESA units. So tonight we're just asking that now that it is completed, the 7th and 8th grade curriculum be approved so that we're in complete alignment with our English language arts from kindergarten through 12th grade. The MESA unit includes, at every grade level, it doesn't matter, it always starts with launching the writer's notebook, then it goes into independent reading, narrative reading, literacy, informational reading, and writing. So it's very vertically aligned K through 12, and it's a very rigorous curriculum for our students. So I'm asking for approval for 7th and 8th grade MESA units, ELA.
I'll entertain a motion to approve that curriculum, moved by Jen and seconded by Kevin. Any discussion on the motion? Questions? This is excellent, and I'm glad we're moving forward. This is the real business of the boards, helping kids, helping enable teachers to help kids learn. So, seeing no other discussion, we'll do a roll call on this item.
Yes.
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 Yes. 7 yes and 0 no. The MESA English 7th and 8th grade curriculum is approved. Next up is the pilot Montessori program.
Tonight we have with us Mary Lampert and Emily Meyer from Ferndale Montessori Schools. So do you ladies want to come on up? After I talk, the real experts can talk. But we started to have a conversation with Ferndale Montessori. Well, I started to have a conversation years ago because I just absolutely love the practice of Montessori and what they can do. And going to Ferndale Montessori was just incredible experience for myself. So we started to talk with them after we were looking at data that we were losing students in Ferndale for multiple reasons. One, in Montessori, it's a multi-age, so ages 3 through 6, so you stay there during that duration. But many of our families want to go into the school lottery and feel it's necessary to start at kindergarten, or they might not have such a access. So sometimes they leave that third essential year in the pre-primary Montessori, which concerns me because my job is the keeper of kids. And the other reason was there were some other Montessori programs available in our county. With the partnership with Ferndale Montessori, what we would like to do is offer a pilot program of a lower elementary, so ages 6 through 9, a multi-age approach. What we would do was employ a Montessori certified teacher, which is very essential for the program. That teacher would receive professional development through Montessori Teachers and Organization. We would have the full Montessori curriculum. We would integrate specials, our art, music, and gym, but also to make sure it goes with the organization of Montessori, where they have to have some uninterrupted blocks of time. It would be multi-age. We would target students who have completed the pre-primary, ages 3 through 6, and so then they would go into the lower elementary program. And so we would be able to support those students, and it would be a seamless transition from Montessori programs around our county into Ferndale Public Schools. I have some exact data on how many students we have lost to Montessori programs, if that's of interest, but I would like for Emily and Mary to speak for a moment.
Hello. Step up here. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thanks for a few minutes of your time. I'm really not sure exactly what to say to how to put Montessori into terms in 5 minutes or less, but kind of an overview for people that might not know what Montessori is. Basically, it's a child-centered philosophy as opposed to a teacher-centered. And the idea is that the teacher is the directress, and the objective is to observe these children, figure out their weaknesses, their strengths, and then be creative to come up with ways to address those weaknesses. And so the teachers, really the term is called a directress. And the idea is that she's guiding and directing these children through their journey of their education. Sorry about that. Education. So one term that kind of comes to mind is like an igniter, like on your grill. The way that we kind of look at it is like these Montessori teachers are there to kind of start the fire, offer that spark, and to step away. And that we help the children kind of own their education. And that they realize that it's that internal flame that's going to carry them on. So some of the big life lessons that come out of Montessori education is that love of learning, that it really is not, I'm not doing it for a sticker or pizza party or something external. I'm doing it for that feeling of accomplishment you get after you do something and you step back and you look at it and go, wow, I did that. The accountability that, especially in a 6 to 9 class, there's a lot of freedom within limits. Here's your contract. Here's your tasks that you have to get done. Now you have to budget your time. You have to not only figure out how you're going to get that done in your day and organize your time, you need to also be accountable that by the end of the day or by the time that that goal is set, you have to be finished. So you have to learn that you're not just going to do it to get it done. You need to do it to the best of your ability. And again, helping them own that and get that feeling that it's not just completing the assignment, it's really doing your best with the assignment. Time management, problem solving. At our age group, the famous thing is, you know, you set up this classroom and you prepare this environment, and then in the end, when the children come and say, well, there's not a pencil or there's no more paper, you can say, well, where do you get that? Where else in this classroom? Try to think outside of the box a little bit and do some problem solving skill development with these children. And the same thing at 6 to 9. You know, they come up with situations, bumps in the road, and are we helping them have the tools to get over those bumps in the road? That's really one of the big goals with Montessori. Did I leave anything out?
I wanted to tell a little story, and this is very personal because it has to do with my own kids, but it gives you a sense of what Montessori kids are all about. When we finished our year in Montessori, in June, we went home, and we happened to live in Troy, and the whole neighborhood was filled with balloons and signs and things like that all over people's front lawns that school is over. It's summer vacation. Everybody was, you know, getting all excited. My kids were just so confused. They had no idea why anybody would get so excited about school being over. And that's kind of the essence of a Montessori child. There is no joy when school is not in session. Nobody rejoices, you know, when you've got 2 weeks off. You know, parents tell us that they can't figure out why they can't go back to school. And I think that that's what all of you are looking for, is that drive and that desire for children to really want to learn and really love to learn. And that, I think, is what Montessori can give children, because they just have this innate love of learning and desire to move on and challenge themselves. They don't look to a teacher or an instructor to pour knowledge into them. They go after it themselves. And that's, you know, what we consider to be a true learner, you know, is someone that goes after it. And that certainly will set the stage for future success. And, you know, we see it every day. We see the light bulbs going on, and kids just get so excited and, you know, interrupt us constantly and tell us, you know, what they're doing or what they did, or they explode with enthusiasm when their parent comes to pick them up. And that's what kids need to have in order to be successful in school and in the rest of their life.
So just as Maurice was saying, other ways of attracting families and retaining our families, that's part of our strategic plan. So I ask that you approve the Montessori pilot program for our lower elementary.
All right, and you provided us with some good background and information in the packet. And I'll entertain a motion and then go to questions. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the Montessori pilot program. Moved by Amy. Seconded by Karen. Questions, discussion?
Well, full disclosure, all three of my girls went to Ferndale Montessori Center. And so this is a little bit of a reunion for us tonight with Mary and Emily. And I agree with everything that you said. And I think that it's such an obvious way to sort of look at Ferndale schools as a partner with the Montessori program, just to sort of help understand, you talked about it a little bit already, Dina, in terms of you start at Ferndale Montessori as a 3-year-old, and then you go in as a 4-year-old, and then when you turn 5, parents are faced with this awful thing where there's this 3rd year of Montessori, but the way it has been, structured at Ferndale schools, they have to make a choice. They have to say, I'd like it for my kid to continue her kindergarten year at Ferndale Montessori, but we need to start at Ferndale schools with kindergarten. I was lucky because at the time my middle daughter was in kindergarten, we still had half-day kindergarten. And so Ferndale Montessori had a half-day program. So she went to kindergarten at Ferndale schools and then Montessori in the afternoon. And so she got a little bit of the best of both worlds. But I think this is such a nice way to sort of offer parents a little bit more of a choice. If their kid is thriving at Ferndale Montessori, then they can continue with the 3-year program, the way it is structured at Ferndale Montessori, and not lose their spot with Ferndale schools, which is what is happening over and over. And so the way I understand it, this is all in the form of a question. So basically, when a kid finishes kindergarten, then as a 6-year-old, say, probably 6-year-old, they would then be able to move into the Ferndale Montessori program as a 1st grader. And it would just be seamless.
Correct.
Okay.
I just have some comments because I love Montessori, and I think, Emily, you and I had some conversation years ago about wouldn't it be great if. And so to actually be here is just a magnificent thing. And so just, some comments of some of the reasons I like Montessori is that it's very tactile when it comes to math and things like that, very inquiry-based. And I know that when I've gone and visited Montessori classrooms, the things they do with math are so impressive. I mean, they think they're just playing with a little puzzle and they're learning logarithms. And those visuals will actually stay with them for the course of their whole math career because now they have a very visual and they can even feel what the difference is between these different things as they go through. And so that's just, I think that's a real benefit. And there are impressive studies, which I'm sure I don't need to cite to you, about how that math foundation works for them going forward. And of course, I also love the international mindedness of the program. So just want to thank you for our collaboration.
I do have one little comment. There are many Montessori schools around. We actually have people in the room from Harmony Montessori, which is also a private Montessori school close to us geographically. And so I think you have a larger pool that you could feed into this public school program, and how thrilling it is that these parents would have this option. And I think I commend you for coming up with this great idea.
So Karen, I just finished reading a longitudinal study about children who go through pre-primary and lower elementary in Montessori and their math and science scores on higher standardized tests, and it's pretty impressive. And I know you like to read, so I'll send it to you.
Any other questions or items for discussion on the motion?
I'm just sad that my mother, who's attended her first school board meeting she's ever, who's a Montessori teacher, wasn't here. She just left a few minutes ago. But she would be delighted, and I'm delighted as well.
Can you bring some puzzles for us to play?
Well, I can say, for anybody who's interested, there are times that you can call Mary and set up and see what Montessori is all about.
We'd love to have you visit.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. So the motion on the table is to approve the pilot Montessori program at Ferndale schools. So a roll call, please.
Latasha? Yes. Lisa May?
Yes.
Toomey?
Yes.
Butters?
Yes.
Deacon Crowe?
Yes.
Cordula?
Yes.
President O'Donnell?
Yes. And with 7 yes and 0 no, that motion carries and the program is approved. Thank you. Thanks for coming this evening. Next up is consideration of the BITEC contract, which actually is 4 separate documents, as I recall.
Nancy Hoover will be explaining the process and the contract.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Currently, Ferndale Schools uses the BITEC system for both its finance and its HR payroll. We currently receive support from St. Clair ISD. The Oakland Schools has put together, in 2012, they put together a consortium where they went through the formal bid process and selected a software that they wanted to use to support those districts in Oakland County. The software that they've come up with, that they've chosen, is BITEC, obviously the software that we're currently on. So they have asked, and they've put a proposal together, not only requesting Ferndale schools, but other schools in our county that are also on the BITEC product. Currently, there are 24 of the 28 districts in Oakland County that have signed this agreement and agreed to get support through Oakland County. Some districts will be migrating just from St. Clair support to Oakland School support. Other districts will actually be doing a full conversion and going from the current software they're on to the BITEC software being supported by Oakland Schools. Our conversion would be less than other districts, obviously, because we are on the software. It will involve, currently we're on an Informex database. We'll be shifting to Microsoft SQL database, and we will be moving up versions. So we're currently on 7.9.6. We will be moving to the latest version at the time of our conversion. We are currently slated to be in phase 3, which would be a go-live date of July 1st, 2017. The process is an 18-month process, so we would start this in January of 2016. When you start the process, we're required to make an upfront payment. This is to help the consortium with the cash flow. It's $6.75 a student. So in the 15-16 fiscal year, we would not only be paying support to St. Clair, and we also make a payment to the actual software company, BITEC, but then we would also be making a payment to Oakland Schools. So we would make that in the 15-16 year, so that would be a total of $52,000 we would pay that year for our support. But then in year 1, we would then only pay, we would still be under support of St. Clair, so we would only pay the amount to St. Clair. Then beginning in fiscal year 17-18, for the next 3 years, we're going to receive a subsidy back from Oakland Schools to reduce our cost. And you'll see, and then at that point in 17-18, we will only be paying Oakland Schools. We will no longer be supported by St. Clair. And the total cost at that point will drop down to $19,000 with the amount per pupil we're paying and then the subsidy that we receive from Oakland Schools. The subsidy is from a group that was put together. The superintendents in Oakland County came together and they formed a group. Oakland Schools then put money into this, and the superintendents decide then what that money is going to be going for. The Oakland Schools will be supporting this project with over $3 million that they're putting towards this project. And because we are currently a BITEC district, then we'll receive a subsidy for our transition. So the overall savings over the 5 years, we will save a total of $27,000 by switching to having Oakland Schools support us. It's also because Oakland Schools is our ISD, and in our county, It's good to be on the latest version with them. We can also get support from other districts around us, because there will be 24 districts in the county that will be using the same system and on the same platform that we'll be on.
And Oakland Schools, since they're also our IT infrastructure provider.
Yes, they are.
Some synergy there, even though I was slow to use the business.
So we're asking that you approve our change from being supported by St. Clair and sign these participation agreements.
I'll entertain a motion to approve that change and also to approve the 4 agreements that would be part of that. The MI Peer Consortium Agreement, the First Amendment to the Consortium Agreement, the Contract for Participation, and the First Amendment to the Contract for Participation as presented in the board packet.
I'll entertain a motion.
Moved by Raylon. Seconded by Kevin. Any discussion or questions on the motion? Amy?
A couple of basic questions. So BITech will continue to be the software that we use.
Yes.
And does the software itself change from St. Clair to Oakland? Is there a difference in the software?
It will change because we will be on the most current version.
Right.
We are currently not on the most current version. And then we'll also be changing the platform that we're on, but for all intents and purposes, the software will be the same.
Okay, so day-to-day life won't really see much differences on the part of our employees that use BITech?
There will be small changes.
Right,
Small
but
changes,
nothing.
as you have with any upgrade when you go to a software.
Right, so that might happen even within St. Clair, they might,
Yes,
if
it
they
would
were to
happen.
upgrade, right?
Yes, it definitely would happen.
And this is coming to the board tonight specifically because of the $19,000 number that's here in the board packet, because the board, there's a threshold for how much, for what the district can spend. Since it's that $19,000 amount, we are requesting the upfront payment of $675 per student, parentheses 19,000. That's why it's coming to the board tonight.
It's also a contract with Oakland Schools.
Okay, so it's also because it's a contract that the district is approving, that we're approving.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions, items of discussion?
You had me, this will save this amount of money. That's, that's really.
Modernizing and saving.
Yes.
At once. All right, then roll call, please, Kim.
Lisa May?
Yes.
Cooney?
Yes.
Butters?
Yes.
Deacon Crowe?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Nakash?
Yes.
President O'Donnell?
Yes. And with 7 yes and 0 no, the motion carries, and the agreements and the BITech participation are approved. Thank you, Nancy. Next up is consideration of the bond security package.
I'm going to have Ryan Belzy from Oakland Schools Technology. I'll give a little explanation here before he begins. When the bond was approved, $900,000 was approved in the bond for security of our buildings. We haven't started working on that in lieu of recent events. We actually have been, since Oakland Schools came on in September, we've been working on the camera system, working with all the administrators to make maps, identify cameras, identify doorways. In lieu of our incident last week, and also obviously in lieu of Sandy Hook in recent memory, we wanted to move this forward quickly so that we could use this money to make sure we better secure our schools. And there will be some other additional pieces as we move forward. But what we're asking for tonight is for the approval of the money for the camera system and for the cabling. Ryan can talk some regarding the bid process. The bid process was done through Oakland Schools. It was a county-wide bid, so it is the same bid that Southfield and Royal Oak has used. We have parsed out the cabling from the cameras so that we could get a better savings because the cabling was not part of the Oakland Schools bid. The cabling bid was not due until 5 o'clock on Friday. That's why the name of the company was not in the original board packet. So you do have a copy of the quote in front of you from AMR Communications. Those bids were reviewed first thing this morning to go through. We did pick a bid that was the second lowest. There was a difference of $500. We had recommended that one due to the fact of their responsiveness and their availability to get going on the project right away, as opposed to the other company that was $500 lower, would have to give a good deal of time until they could do the cabling, which would then push the whole camera project back, which would mean we wouldn't be able to get this project moving in short order. So that's kind of the overview, and Mr. Velsey can go through the particulars.
Yes, this project has been underway since we started in Ferndale a short time ago. We're really phrasing this as a safety and security package. There's two phases. I'm going to talk about the first phase first, and then go to the second phase. Like Blake said, this was a RFP process. This project was part of an RFP process that I was part of about 1.5 years ago. To go through and select a video management system and cameras to manage safety and security in schools in Oakland County. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of the process and then show you what the end product will be that we'll be able to show you in Ferndale in a couple months. So the first step of the process is to work with administrators and staff, security staff in the buildings, to look at the layouts of the buildings and focus on where are the priority areas, the building administrators know where the hot zones are, I like to say. So we walk through the buildings with our contractor and building officials and produce these maps. So the maps are both covering internal and interior and exterior portions of the building. So we have a map of each building. And so, the green is really the exterior of the building. And the different colors represent different camera types. There's 180-degree cameras that cover alongside of a wall. There's just different cameras in different megapixels, depending on, if it's a front entryway of a school, that has a high-resolution camera because there's a lot more activity. So we choose the camera types based upon what's going on in the vicinity of that, where that camera is going to be placed. So we went through that and did that, and then went to the RFP and said, okay, we're going to need these items, this bill of materials for Ferndale schools, and built that package that we're asking you to approve tonight. So that's where the cameras will be installed, is based upon on these maps they'll be installed. Now, when I said video management solution, we chose Milestone. Milestone is a platform that takes all the data coming from all these cameras that's going to be installed into a software platform where we can really process the data. So I'm going to show you the Milestone software tonight, and I'm using Southfield's camera system. Now the Southfield system, they had a legacy cameras, and then they also had new cameras when we did this project. So some of the cameras you might see may not be as clear, because we took their 8-year-old cameras and brought them into this newer generation video management solution. So this is Milestone. This is a live view. You can have different views as a building administrator of how you want your cameras set up. You can have 6 cameras on your screen. You can have 12. You can have 24. Similar to you see in Best Buy or some other stores that have a video management for loss prevention. So I can quickly go through these views, and it connects to the cameras, and if I double click on a screen, it will show me, it'll bring in a higher view.
And we did meet with Chief Collins to go through the whole process, to have him look at the cameras, because the police department will have instant access to our cameras also. So if there is an incident in the building, they'll have maps that have all the cameras, and they can pull up any situation or look through any recording. There's also an iPad app as well as an Android app that can be used, so that we make sure that we have the quickest response time possible.
Excuse me. And I did also sit through the entire presentation, and we did go over specs of the cameras and whether or not the resolution was enough to zoom in, as well as the size of our servers and how expandable they would be as we wanted to add or update equipment. And so it's pretty flexible.
So I can go through, and this will be a demonstration of a playback. I can go through along the bottom and say I want to see everything from 1 p.m. in these 6 cameras to today, and then play that, and it'll show activity, and you can speed it up or slow it down. That's one feature of the software, and all this is being stored on servers, so you can see this was actually the production day. Then what you could also do is this software has smart searches, so if I am, let's say there was a camera on this table, if I had a backpack and I wanted to see the backpack move, I could draw a square around that table and I could see all the video. It process gave me all the video of what's happening in this box. So it gives you intelligence in the software to be able to, and that was one of the highlights, because as administrators, we all have 10 things to do and 1 minute to do it. So we can use software to help us with our job. And so this software will be installed on Ferndale hardware. Ferndale recently, through the bond dollars that were allocated towards technology, purchased a lot of storage area network SANs as part of the bond projects that are sitting idle right now. And so we're going to utilize that architecture that was purchased to store all of this video. So it's a very good use for these storage area networks that we have here in Ferndale. And at this point, we do anticipate that we have enough storage to be able to capture 3 weeks of video we have. So, as I broke it up into phases, we have 2 awards that we're asking you to approve today. One is for the cameras, not to exceed $175,000, and that's for the installation of the cameras, the actual cameras themselves, the video management software milestone. All of that bill of materials will be awarded to ROK Systems if approved tonight. And then the cabling infrastructure, there's Cat 6 cabling that has to go to each camera. And so there's companies that specialize in cabling buildings. They know how to get through the hallways and everything the most efficient. So we took bids. We're recommending JLM Networks be awarded a contract not to exceed $36,000 for the structured cabling, which is part of this package. So typically what happens is,
In the packet, because we did not have the bids at the time, we were looking at not to exceed 35. We're asking to not exceed 36 based upon the quote of 33,559 from JLM, just so that we have some wiggle room in case we end up getting into an issue where we don't have enough cable, so therefore we don't have to put a change order in. Same with the cameras. We've already had University High School today re-looking at their cameras, want to move one, which shouldn't be any cost, but if all the administrators have been through, they're the ones that design the maps, but if they decide that there's something in the process that needs to change, we need a little bit of wiggle room as an allowance or contingency, as in most bond projects. But instead of doing a change order, we're moving it into the bid. So on your information, it should say not to exceed 36 for JLM, which is in the second bid in the packet that you have.
in phase 2, part of the safety and security package, part of the bond, is really access control and entryway security. So we're collecting bids now. We don't have a countywide bid that we can point to for this phase 2. So we're collecting bids for Ferndale to basically make the entryways of our schools secure. So that would be putting electronic strikes in and access pads, so that way each employee would have a ID badge that would grant them access to the building based upon what we set as the security permissions. And then we would have entryways, secure entryways for community members to gain access into our buildings. So they would walk up to the building, they would press a
during non-entryway times. Every building has a certain time when people enter and exit the building. This is if someone's coming tardy, let's say, they come to the building after the normal students are in session, they present themselves at the door, press a button, they talk to somebody in the office through a video phone, and they can be released into the building. So we have worked with administrators on those maps. We anticipate in December I will have a package to bring to you to approve for this Phase 2 safety and security package. Any questions on Phase 1 or Phase 2?
Asking the board to approve out of bond funds $175,000 to ROK for cameras and installation within our buildings.
And we just roll these into one.
Second item, not to exceed $36,000 for Cat 6 cable installation to JLM Networks.
Moved by Nan and seconded by Karen. Any discussion or questions on the motion?
I remember when we discussed this years ago at the community meeting when we were discussing the bond and hoping that something like this would be done within the first year of having the bond. And I am extraordinarily pleased that Mr. Pruitt has moved on it because it was important and it will be done shortly. So I'm very pleased.
Superintendent Pruitt, I was just wondering if you could possibly, because I love to do so, amplify the savings in money between the amount that was originally budgeted and what we're spending right now.
The original budget amount was $900,000. Now we will obviously have a little bit more when we do the door strikes, but we're estimating probably under $100,000 easily for that. So, all said and done, maybe we'll be talking about $300,000 out of bond funds, so that's about $600,000 savings. One of the projects we're looking at with that savings is redoing the wall by the elephant steps at the high school. Those gates aren't secure. Due to fire code, we have to keep those gates open during the day, which is a safety issue. So we're already working to get a plan together to put fire doors in, redo the gates, so that can be secure and locked down all day long. So we'll be able to do some more with security because of the bond funds that we have than we originally thought. And that was due to being able to county bids and being able to save more money in that process than originally thought.
Thank you. Any other questions? Discussion? All right, then we can move to a roll call on this, please.
Toomey.
Yes.
Butters.
Yes.
Beavencroft.
Yes.
Mueller. Yes. Latage.
Yes.
May.
Yes.
President O'Donnell.
Yes. With 7 yes and 0 no, the motion carries, and the approvals to award the bids to ROK for cameras and installation and to JLM Networks for cabling are approved. Next up is the audit presentation with Yo and Yo, by Yo and Yo. Ask. Them to come up to the podium.
All right, thank you very much for having me. I'm Brian Dixon from Yo and Yo, and in your packets you did receive a number of items. The first item was your audit report, which was your landscape copy. I believe that was in your audit packet. Your single audit report, which is your compliance audit, as well as your governance letter. So a lot of items that went into your audit package. And on the screen today, we're going to go through each one of those, much condensed version of those. But if you do want to talk or answer any questions, or if you want to dig in any further into the audit, we can do that too. So first of all, the audit process consists of 3 items. We look at your financial statements, which are the numbers. We look at your internal controls to make sure there are safeguards in place, as well as we look at compliance with federal, state, local laws and regulations. When we looked at your financial statements, which again are the numbers, we did issue an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. The financial statements were fairly presented. Financial information was properly accounted for. Next slide here, we have your balance sheet, which is a balance sheet of your governmental funds as of June 30th, 2014. It's broken down between your general fund, your capital projects fund, your debt service fund, as well as your non-major governmental funds, which is actually your food service fund. So if we go down the general fund, assets of $7.1 million, liabilities 4.9, deferred inflows of resources about $8,000, and leaving you fund balance at the end of the year of just under $2.3 million. Your capital projects fund, your assets of $9 million, liabilities $1.8 million, and a fund balance of 7.2, or just under 7.2 million. Debt service fund, $258,000 in assets, $100 in liabilities, very small deferred inflow of resources of $44,000, and a fund balance of $214,000. And in your food service fund, assets of $143,000, $64,000 of liabilities, bringing you to a fund balance in that fund of $79,000. On the next slide, you'll see this is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Again, as of for the year ended June 30th, 2014. Again, broken down between your general fund, capital projects fund, debt service, and your non-major, which is your food service fund. General fund revenues of $34.7 million, expenditures of $35.5 million, bringing you a decrease in fund balance this year of $816,000, bringing you back to that original $2.2 million or just under $2.3 million of fund balance at the end of the year. Capital projects fund, $54,000 in revenue, expenditures this year of $11.2 million, decrease in fund balance, bringing you back to the $7.2 million that we mentioned on the previous page. Debt service, $9.3 million in revenues, $9.3 million of expenditures, increase, a slight increase of $50,000, and bringing you to your fund balance of $214,000, as well as your food service, pretty much a break-even fund, $1 million in revenue, $1 million in expenses, increase of $11,000, and bringing you back to your fund balance of $79,000 that we mentioned. So that's all the funds, but really what you're focusing on is your operational fund, which is your general fund. So we're going to go into a little more detail on that. So your general fund comparison to your budget, we have your original budget, your final budget, and your actual on this slide. And you will see your final budget to actual was very close. 0.46% in revenues and 1.75% in expenditures, lower, which is great. You know, you're under your budget and your expenditures. So you did have a break-even original budget. Final budget came in at a decrease of 1.3 million, and your actual, what actually happened, came in at a decrease of 816,000. So if we look at those revenues that we just mentioned, so $34.7 million in revenues that we just mentioned on the previous page, this is how those revenues come in. And you will see state, if we focus on 2014, we have state and federal of 83%, your local, which is your property taxes, of 12%, and your other is 5%. And if you compare those to 2013, and we left both pies up there, so you could compare those, but very consistent. The money is coming in consistently between the 2 years. I did break it down a little further and said that 85% is broken down between state and local. So that's the student counts. You know, 85% of your revenues coming in the door is all based on student counts. So again, very consistent between the 2 years. Then we did the same thing with your general fund expenditures. Again, breaking down that $35.6 million of expenses and you will see again, instruction of 49%, support 44%, and other is 7%, and all within, again, 1% of the prior year. So not only is your revenue coming in consistently, but you're also expending money in a consistent manner between the 2 years. Here we have your general fund balance at the end of the last 5 years. And you will see 2010 had an increase to 2011, another increase to 2012, bringing your fund balance to 11.9% of your expenditures, or almost 4.7 million. Then we had a decrease in 13 and a decrease in 14, and both of those decreases, you did have about a 300 student count drop in both of those years, bringing you down to 8.1% in 13 and down to 6.4% at the end of 2014. And just to give you some comparisons of other districts, in 2013, statewide, MDE does recommend a 15% fund balance. So it says at the end of 13, you were sitting at 8.1%. Your peer group, which is between 3,000 students and 3,500 students, was 8.6. So 8.6 to 8.1, very, very comparable to your peers. Statewide average, about 8.3%. And if you take Detroit Public Schools out because of their deficit, that does increase the state average to 9.4%. So at this rate and the rate of spending over the last few years, you would have about 2 years worth of fund balance remaining, maybe 3, depending, if things continue to go at the same rate as the last couple years. This next slide is just a breakdown of 9 school districts in the Oakland County and the per pupil amount that you're receiving. And you are right in the middle of these 9 districts. And again, 85% of the revenue that we talked about is based on $7,700 per kid coming in the door. So you need to increase your student counts, to continue to increase the revenue. So that's the numbers. So then we look at your internal controls. And we look at internal controls over your major programs. And this year we did test 3 major programs: your special education cluster, your Title I program, and your adult education program. We found no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no findings in those 3 programs. So you're spending your federal money properly, which is what you want to hear. We look at your governance letter. And this is required communication between the auditors and those charged with governance, which is the board. And the biggest thing I wanted to point out in that governance letter, I want to say it's about a 5 or 6 page letter from us to the board. But we did add about 1.5 pages of information on upcoming accounting standards and regulatory updates this year. Very good information for the board to know moving forward and what's going to happen in the future. And we will talk about on a couple more slides, but GASB 68 and 71 and how those are going to be implemented in your district. And then we have internal controls over financial reporting. So not only do we look at internal controls over your major programs, but we also look at internal controls over financial reporting. And we did have 1 deficiency when we looked at that, and we had a non-compliance issue. So we had a material weakness for your bond project non-compliance. The district, during our testing, we noted that they did not follow the procurement policy for certain expenditures, did not obtain proper bids on some of the services and equipment purchases in that bond project, and or information just wasn't available. It may have happened, but it was unable to be provided to us to audit it. And then finally, like I mentioned, GASB 68, this is the unfunded pension liability. And this will be recognized on the district's books. And I know we mentioned this last year as well, but it's been a couple years in the making. And as of next June, that will actually be recorded as a liability. So it's the unfunded portion of the pension liability. And that is estimated for Ferndale schools to be $46.5 million. So a very huge number. But that, again, it does not affect your operational funds. You're still gonna pay as you go, you're gonna pay the percentage that the state mandates or officer retirement service mandates that you do pay on every dollar wage. But it is in effect for next year, so it doesn't affect your operations, but it is gonna show up as a liability on your district-wide statements. And those are your full accrual statements. Those are, all your buildings and all your debt are included in those statements as well. So it is just another liability that's gonna be out there on those full accrual statements. So the $46.5 million that I mentioned, that was a measurement date as of September 30th of 12 that Officer Retirement Services put out there. They are giving you a new measurement, I believe here in November, maybe early December. And that would be as of September 30th, 2013. When we come in to do the audit next year, we will record the September 30th, 2014 number on your June 30th of 15 audit. So it'll be the most recent allocation that ORS's auditors are putting out there. So ORS is doing all the auditing of it basically and providing you a number as to what your portion of that liability is.
What's the, you said it, I missed it, but what's the total statewide unfunded liability?
I do not know that. Oh, I bet I have that information. The unfunded portion is 22 billion. And your portion is 46.5 million of that. But again, remember, this is the unfunded portion, and that was as of September 30th of 2012. We had some really good years in the market in the last 2 years. So the portion that's funded has grown. They've obviously paid out of that as well, but hopefully the years in the market and the good market out there, hopefully that unfunded portion is shrinking. But we won't know that until we see what ORS puts out for 2013. And then again, when they give us the information next year for the audit for 2014.
So they have actuaries that help determine that in terms of pensioners' lifespans and all that?
That is my understanding, yes.
And make certain assumptions about future growth in investment markets?
That would be my understanding, yeah.
Okay. And there's nothing we can do about it anyway?
There's nothing that anyone can do.
So the state can do something about it?
You're going to continue to pay as you go. So your operational is going to go up this year. It was 4.56%. It goes up to 7.6 something percent next year to fund the unfunded portion. And that again is in the regulatory update that we gave you, that percentage. I think it's 7.62 for next year's payroll or the current year's payroll.
And of course, the fewer public employees that are covered by that and that pay into it, the more
the percentage is going to go up. That is
going.
Yep.
So EAA and charter schools don't pay into the system. Okay.
And then finally, I'd just like to thank you for having me here tonight. Is there any questions that any of you have on any of the information we covered?
Yes, I have some questions. Well, first, one question. On the financial audit on page 1.1, and I'm not going to ask a question about every page, but
1-1, yeah.
Yeah. The board and administration are listed, but Mr. Pruitt's first day of employment was July 1st, 2014, so he wasn't superintendent during the period of this audit?
Correct. He finished out the audit process with us, and that is why we put him here.
Okay. But in terms of the material weakness that's identified, he had nothing to do with causing that material weakness, and in fact,
that is correct.
My understanding is he had a role bringing that to light.
Yep, we test it each and every year, and you saw that your bond process goes in phases. And when we tested information last year, there was no material weakness in that area. But when we tested this year, information was not available to us.
Okay. I actually have several questions, but I just wanted to say that the points to my questions in 3 different areas. First, I want to make sure that the board is setting the right tone at the top of the organization, that we help set the ethical and accountability standards for the district, along with the superintendent, and the values and the standards that the board has are such that we don't have any tolerance for the kind of major breaches of policy that we see in this audit, that in that single audit, that material weakness is not just $34 missing lunch receipt. It is a significant material weakness. So if there are breaches of policy, law, or any other fundamental financial controls, that's not the kind of thing we want to tolerate, and the people responsible aren't here anymore.
That is correct.
The second thing is, I just want to communicate to the staff and the public that this superintendent and this administration, including Ms. Hoover, our assistant superintendent of finance, are not the ones that own the problems that we discover right now, and they deserve the space they need to identify any other conditions that we may have in the district, and they have identified several, not necessarily as part of the audit, but just ongoing business operations, and they need the space and room from us and from the public to make the changes that they need to make to get this district back to solid sustainability. And the third point of the questions I'm going to ask is mostly to set clear expectations for our auditors, that we want our auditors to be independent from management, that we expect excellent auditing, public accounting advice, and that we want them to come to the audit with well-developed risk-based audit plans that are going to be based on solid risk assessments. What is at risk for the district in terms of its financial statements and its single audit process in terms of the government funds and bond compliance. So with that said, the first question I have is, a material weakness is, in my view, and I'm a financial professional, not a public accountant, but management accountant. So it's an extremely serious finding. And can you just explain to us what the implications of this finding are in terms of generally, but also in terms of what we can expect from increased funder audits or credit rating?
I don't know exactly for the credit, your bond ratings or anything like that. That would be based on a bond rater, and we don't obviously do that. A material weakness, again, you had transition between management and your superintendent and your business manager. During our audit this year, we had an interim business manager, we were dealing with your old business manager, and then a new business manager, all to try to get throughout the audit process. But a material weakness is just what it is. It's a material weakness. It's something we could not locate documents, or the new management could not locate documents and provide them to us to prove that you followed your bond compliance. So that is very material and needs to be acted on, and I believe Mr. Pruitt is already in the process of doing that.
And I can speak to that for a second. For one of the incidents, the company did not have any backup documentation, so it wasn't that the district didn't have it or that it was lost in the shuffle. It's that that documentation never existed to begin with.
That's an important fact. And can you tell us a little bit more about the process that was used to identify this finding?
Yep, each and every year we do, during your bond project, we do a random sampling of various disbursements. So we look at your entire GL of your construction fund, and we pick certain, based on a random sampling, we pick certain projects or certain GL expenditures. And when we pulled those out, there were a number of them that the supporting documentation was not there.
How do you, like the federal funds that you selected to audit that there weren't problems with, how do you identify, I mean, what's the process you use to identify those, and do you do a risk assessment? Or?
We do. Yep. Your whole audit is done on a risk assessment basis, but specifically for the single audit projects, Any major program, and a major program is that program that expends more than $300,000 in a fiscal year. Each major program has to be tested at least every 3 years. You do have to get to a certain coverage in each every year, and therefore that's why we needed to test 3 major programs this year, because we had to get to our certain coverage of your total federal expenditures. And so in the whole process, we make sure we test them at least once every 3 year, 3rd year, and we also have to get to coverage in a certain year by testing a number of major programs. So this year we did select the 3 that we did based on that.
Since we're ultimately responsible for the results of the audit, what tools, aside from the required annual audit, could we use to assure ourselves and the public that we're in compliance with sound internal control practices?
Well, I think setting the policies and following up with management to make sure the policies are in place. The bond project, having them come here to actually present to you and approve over a certain dollar amount. That is always a good internal control to have. Making turnover in management, obviously, it's not a good thing. When you're turning over.
Just to be fair.
Let's be clear
Well,
on the
right.
timeline.
Clear on the timing here.
Right.
Let's be clear on the
Turnover in
timing.
management had absolutely nothing to do with this finding.
That's correct.
It all occurred.
That occurred prior to the turnover of
Long-term
management.
management was in
It was
Yes.
in the year, 2014, that is correct.
Sometimes
even-
turnover in management is a positive thing.
Sometimes it is.
Well, yeah, even.
But the
even-
continuity, I guess I
Right.
was trying to say.
Just in
The
terms of
continuity
if
management.
your job of performing an audit, if you're going through a change in personnel, it adds to the steps that you have to take, no matter what.
That is correct.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was your point, I
Yeah.
think, right?
Yeah, and just, the continuity, yeah.
But the time period in question is not from the actual turnover.
Correct. The turnover happened subsequent to the end of the year.
It was the actual performance of the audit, the coming in and doing the actual work is what you're referring to in terms
Right.
of the transition period.
So I understand that financial audits like this and the single audit for the federal funds and the bond compliance don't test everything. So it's no audit is a statement that all internal controls are in good order and that contracts and other operations of the district are being done efficiently and effectively. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct. We set materiality levels and we do sampling. Like I said, we can't test 100%. We're out here all year long. So we do random sampling in your major programs. We have to test, if it's 40 transactions or a small sample size, we have to test various transactions in those. Your bond compliance we test, but we do follow, Michigan Department of Ed guidelines in our audit process. And
Mr. President? Given this audit, I would like to motion that we authorize our administration to take any and all actions necessary to remedy the findings.
All right. So it's been moved by Karen. Is there a second on that motion? Seconded by Jen. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote on the motion. And the motion is as a result of the audit presentation, we're authorizing the administration to take any and all actions to remedy the findings. To remedy the findings.
To remedy, okay.
Oh, yeah, right.
Butters.
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
Vermueller.
Yes.
Natasha. Yes. Weeks May.
Yes.
Toomey.
Yes.
President O'Donnell.
Yes. And with seven yes and 0 no, the motion carries and the administration is so authorized. One final question. Could you tell me how long Yo and Yo has been doing audits for the district?
Off the top of my head, I'm not positive of that. I know that I'm the new audit partner. We had a partner retire, and I am the new partner in charge. of the audit. So, and our in-charge has been on the engagement, I believe it was 4 years, and I've been the new audit partner for 2.
Okay.
Fairly new.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Well, thank you very much for having me, and we'd like to thank Mr. Pruitt and Ms. Hoover. They really helped in getting through the audit process this year, and I would like to thank them for that.
All right. And I know we'll all be working together to make sure that next year's audit is clean. Thank you.
Yep.
Next up is the, any report that you have, Mr. Pruitt?
No, just on my section is the Career Center report, as well as the minutes and notes from the Achievement Committee and Governance Committee are in the packet this week, or this month.
Take note of that. Then we have a couple of items to consider that were pulled from the consent agenda. The first was item 4.2, which was the minutes of the regular meeting on October 20th.
Totally gone.
And there was an addition from the minutes that were posted on the website, and that's, we did approve a second reading of policies that were presented in the packet last month. And so that will read, it was moved by Ms. Toomey and seconded by Ms. Latosh. The board approved the second reading of policies that were recommended by NEAR. There were 7 ayes and 0 nays for that. So that's the addition to that. And then when I did the consent agenda, I mistakenly read the special meeting was on October 20th, it was on November 3rd. So we can just correct that. So I'll entertain a motion to amend the minutes of the regular meeting of October 20th and then correctly state the special meeting minutes on November 3rd. Moved by Karen, seconded by Jen. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. May.
Yes.
Toomey. Yes. Butters.
Yes.
President O'Donnell.
Yes. Next up would be consent agenda, former consent agenda item 4.5, which is the approval of resignations. And just as a way of introducing this, we actually have board policy on this. Policy 3140 says that a resignation, once accepted, may not then be rescinded, and the superintendent may act for the board in the acceptance of a resignation. And so the request is just to approve or ratify the resignations, not to accept the resignations, because as a group, they've already happened and been accepted.
Tenure and how this sort of just happens by default and
Right.
we just support it.
Right. We're essentially
Something that's
taking
already
formal
happened.
action. Right.
Something that's already happened.
And Blake, you have an opinion from the board's attorney that we must approve these.
Well, discussion?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess this is more of a comment. I would like for it to be known that I have known Kiara Watts for the last 4 years. My son Owen was in the Grant Preschool program, a great preschool program, for 2 years, the 2 years that she actually first started. And I just want to make it known that I think she's a great supervisor of that program, was a great supervisor of that program. In response to the rescinding of the resignation, I have something to say about that. One, I didn't think that it could be done, but I do want to say something about it. although I respect Ms. Watts tremendously and all her work that she has done for this district prior to even coming to Grant, I do know firsthand that a resignation letter was submitted, and I also know that there are two sides to every story, as has been put here. But the fact that the resignation letter was submitted, I think as a board, we have a responsibility to accept it. And with our, with board counsel, perhaps we will, whatever comes out of board counsel, perhaps something more will come out that we, understand more about that. But at this point, I think because it was submitted in hand on the date that it was submitted, that we actually have a responsibility to accept it.
So, given that, I appreciate you saying those comments. I'll entertain a motion to approve the resignations as submitted by Mr. Shelton, our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources. Moved by Jen. Seconded by Kevin. Any discussion on the motion?
If I could just very briefly, I'm moved by what people have said, and I understand, I think, these situations. In particular, I just wanted to speak to Supervisor Squalls, who I think may not be here anymore. And members of the Royal Oak Township community. This board has really tried to work with the Royal Oak Township community, and I would just ask that those of you in that community, those of you who deal with that community, to understand personnel issues are one thing, and a board's commitment to the broader community is another. Sometimes they intersect, but sometimes they're distinct. And whatever decision is made here, whatever decision was made in the lead up to this, I think in no way indicates this board's lack of commitment to working with Royal Oak Township to doing a better job than has been done in the past of making sure that we listen to those voices. So I appreciate that folks are here. This is not an area where we can intervene as a board. There are lots of other areas where we can and where we can do a better job, and I hope we are doing a better job. And so toward that end, I would say, please tell us when you need us to do better. Please tell us when you need us to do more. On this one, we can't do anything, but on a lot of other questions, we can be better stewards of those resources. And at least as a board member, I would say I'm committed to that, and I know the rest of the board is the same way, feels the same way.
I have something to say, please.
We're just taking comments from the board right now. The public comment was closed. Public comment was closed. And any other discussion?
I guess I would just like to express my understanding in the board's role in this process. I feel that this is, the board's responsibility is to hire one person, and that's Superintendent Pruitt. And I guess it is my understanding that it is proper to allow him to do that job, and for any discussion regarding the job that he does, other than, the time when we're doing your evaluation, which you have the right to ask for a closed session. Other than that, it's his job. The board, it is not the board's job, and it is not appropriate for the board to necessarily deliberate on this.
All right. Seeing no other discussion, we will move to a roll call, please.
Mueller?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. May?
Yes.
Julie? Yes. Butters?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And with seven yes and 0 no, the motion passes, and the request to approve the resignations is approved. Next up, we have a legislative update. Mrs. Toomey?
All right, I just wanted to follow up real quickly. As you know, there was just a big election, and we in the state saw a huge shift, not just between parties going solely to one party, but also I think that you will find in the leadership positions given out within Lansing, we are going to see a shift in the commitment to the west side of the state. So given those changing dynamics, I know that our superintendent of Oakland Schools, Vicki Markovich, has decided to cancel the grassroots network meetings that she was planning. This should in no way be considered us surrendering. It's more of a time to reevaluate how to go forward. I think it's more clear than ever that we're going to have to be forming partnerships and finding other ways to be more effective going forward in this fight. The lame duck has had many things discussed that could be coming up in session. One of the things that I've been receiving phone calls from on various academics is to really listen carefully for the emergency manager laws that are being considered. There's also consideration possibly of an early warning system coming through, teacher evaluations. Our favorite, the color grading system, is possibly to be considered as well. One of the things that I would like to really encourage us to do is to keep our eyes and our support on the State Board of Education. As you may know, recently Sandra Aldrich and Pamela Q. Smith did just win their election, so we do have a very supportive Board of Education. They are the ones who are currently set to choose our next superintendent.
State superintendent.
State superintendent, good point. As I'm saying that, though, I want us to also be mindful of the fact that there are already articles being written in the Detroit News and other places where the current leadership of our state is threatening to get rid of the State Board of Education, which would, of course, require a vote, but we also know that this is a very powerful and well-organized messaging organization. So it's always that to a vote and do successful messaging on it to vote that happens. So going forward, I'd like to really encourage us to support that State Board of Education. I think that what they do have is the ability to pick our next superintendent, and they also have the bully pulpit. They have ways of being sort of the remaining check and balance out there to bring light to what's happening. I also want to notify my board colleagues here that the Oakland County School Board Association has given us opportunity for a couple of scholarships. Number one, they have offered us a scholarship if anybody on this board is able or interested, willing to go to the NSBA Advocacy Institute in DC. That happens from February 1st through the 3rd. This is when you go through extensive training, you connect with national networks to try and cut these things off at the roots, because we know that these are well organized at the national level by organizations such as ALEC, Koch brothers, Gates, others. And so it's a really powerful thing to go there, receive the training, connect with other networks, and then you spend the days on Capitol Hill actually meeting with policymakers as well. So I've attended it a couple years in the past, and it was very powerful, meaningful, and I think effective. The other fun thing is that Oakland County School Boards usually organizes for an extra day where you go and attend embassy and learn a little bit about educational systems in other countries. So I know the last one that I attended was in Finland, and I think this one they're planning on attending in Korea. So if anybody is interested, that scholarship is out there. And also know that Oakland County School Board is willing to pay for people to attend the MASB legislative trip, which is going to be March 5th. And I believe that those scholarships are going to be first come, first served, so if anybody is interested in doing that. And to our greater public and residents, I just would like to put in a little plug as requested by Mike Davison, the administrator of Ferndale Grassroots Network, to please, if you haven't already liked the page, go and find the Ferndale Grassroots Network, like it, stay connected there. We will be coming to you with some collaboratively going forward to try and keep our public education.
So we'll move to Eagle Points of Pride. Who wants?
I do.
Okay.
My Eagle Point of Pride for this meeting is the Ferndale High School Marching Band, which went to the state championship tournament first weekend in November, and I know everybody already knows, but I think that we really need to make sure that we continue to support the band, and so I'm just going to remind everyone that they are marching in the Royal Oak Holiday Parade this coming Sunday. I think it's 1 o'clock when the kids march in that parade.
Dress warmly.
Yes. So that will be a great way to come out and support the kids. And that's all.
All right. Anyone else?
Which way are we going? Okay, all right. My Eagle Point of Pride is, I don't know if you know, but we have a wonderful dance instructor, Jan Winham, who has been with this program for many, many years. And she is not, in addition to working with our kids during the week, she has also taken it upon herself to work with our kids on the weekends. And she's worked with kids from preschool through 6th grade, and for a time period of about 8 or 9 weeks, and then there's a recital that follows her work with these kids. And I just want to let you know that she's my point of pride because she gives these kids an opportunity to express themselves via dance and present in front of the audience and just bring about the self-confidence and she's also encouraging the programs, the arts programs that we are so proud of in this district. There's a recital this Wednesday evening at the high school. If you'd like to see her work, it is at 7 o'clock. A lot of our students are in it. In fact, mostly all of our students are in it. Future students and current students. So just a shout out to Jan.
Can I just add to that too? One really cool thing about it is that Jan doesn't teach all of those classes. She has her older students are actually teaching the younger students, which is just a great example of the mentoring that takes place in our school district, where she gives the opportunity for the older dancers to mentor the younger ones, and so it's perpetually a great way for the kids to learn and teach and to learn from teaching.
Right, so you're next, Kevin.
Yeah, I stayed away from personal stories in this part of the thing, but today I'm feeling it, especially since we had the Montessori presentation since my mother was here. She said today, your children come home sad to be away from school and really excited to go back the next day. What kind of school district is this? Because they're doing a fantastic job. And from a woman who spent 50 years of her life in professional education, I take that as a sign of what a district this is. And it's nice always to see it from the view of an unbiased outsider. So well done to all my kids' teachers and to the whole staff and system that makes it possible.
My Eagle Point of Pride this month is also personal. I'm giving a shout out to the Early Childhood Special Education Program that is running out of Grant. Christy Keene, Miss Kathleen, Miss Molly are running an amazing early childhood special ed program that is not only good for the kids, but it is also supportive to the parents in making it so that way they develop relationships, so that way they can be better, stronger parents and celebrate both the great achievements and the struggles that all of our fragile children within this program go through. And it has been an honor and a pleasure to be a part of it.
I'd like to give my shout out to food. I'm just so really touched by how often we come together over food and how much the community supports us through food, because last Friday, another fantastic example, we had a wonderful spaghetti dinner thrown for our scholarship fund. Tomorrow we have Brew throwing an event so that our band can make money. And I know that on November 29th, wait, did I just flip it? So tomorrow is at the WAB. And on the November 29th, our baseball team will be raising money at Brew. So I love all the different ways we come together and the amazing partnerships we have in our community with our businesses. I think that that's something really special we have here in Ferndale. So that's my shout out to the businesses and the women who cook spaghetti.
I think it was lasagna, but that's okay.
Lasagna.
My point of pride surrounds our special education parents, particularly Esther McCoy, who is as everyone on the board knows, is not only a member of our strategic plan review committee that helped us finalize the strategic plan in 2013, but also very constructively and relentlessly advocates for making sure that we include all kids in things like mission statements and vision statements, and pays attention to that, and pays attention to the fact that we talk about it, not only do it. And so I also appreciate the way that that our four central office leaders, Superintendent Pruitt and our three assistant superintendents, Mr. Sheldon, Ms. Rochelle, and Ms. Hoover, focus even in their areas that maybe are not every day about teaching and learning, but focus our agenda and our attention on the kids of this district and making sure that that everybody is aligned with teaching and learning for all of our students. So I appreciate Esther McCoy and the four of you.
I'm completely breaking the rules here. There's many points of pride I could bring up, but I'm going to talk about my day. Sorry. I spent the day at a funeral for a 12-year-old today. And I know that we don't have a magic ball or crystal ball, but just a reminder for us all to go home and hug our kids and hug our kids' friends and talk to them every day and encourage them to be kind, because I hope that no other parent or community or family has to go through a funeral service for a 12-year-old like my friend had to go through today.
I just wanted to thank the high school volleyball team. They did a fantastic job at districts at Fitzgerald. They came from behind. And more important than winning or losing, they were always poised. Even when they were behind, they were laughing, they were enjoying. They were phenomenal sports. I'd say sportsmen, but that's the wrong term, sportswomen. It was great to see that not only can they be successful on the court, but they're successful with each other, because that's teaching the whole child. So it's very proud of them, and especially when their coach had to leave mid-year with a complicated pregnancy, and we had a new coach come in, to go that far and to be that cohesive was great to see.
I heard that the team that they played in the regionals is a major powerhouse volleyball team, right?
Yes.
And so just to be able to play against them, I think, was a major accomplishment for our girls.
Yes, very much so.
All right, our next regular board meeting is on Wednesday, so this is a different day and date in September. Wednesday, December 17th, 2000.
What did we do that for? What's that reasoning? Okay, all right.
Yeah, I know, I'm like, okay. It's on Wednesday, what?
Yeah.
What day again?
Wednesday, December 17th. So,
the first flight.
It's not on our district calendar. It is?
Yellow's district.
Without any objection, we are adjourned at 9:13.
I did it yesterday. Oh, I'm exhausted.